So what would you say is special about the culture? Why would somebody want to work there?
So one is we're customer focused. Two is when you look at the space, we have the TAM is large, but even in a down market, this TAM has done well. So if you go back to the last kind of time we've been through a tough market, 2009, it'll show you in the data management side actually grew during that time. So as much as I know it's a little tougher out there, we feel that there's an opportunity to grow through it and acquire, more net new logos, more big customers.
Awesome. Great. What are anything special about the culture?
Yeah, I think the culture is number one is we're focused on winning.
You're laughing, so that's good. That's a good sign.
I'm fine. So we're focused on winning. I would tell you anybody who knows what I drive out there is, you show up with your attitude, a great attitude every single day. We're there to help everybody out and really there to overachieve. So when we look at what we do, whether that's in our sales numbers, supporting our customers, supporting our partners, we want to overachieve. And I will tell you the last thing, Randy, what's great about it is we'll compete. I'm smiling because, we do have 2.5 days left in our quarter, but we won't stop fighting until it's midnight Hawaii time on Tuesday.
Nice. Awesome. And then I saw you're in Europe a couple of weeks ago bouncing around, right?
Yeah, it was good. I did three countries in one day at one point. I went from the UK on a train to Paris and flew to Italy at night. So that was great. And, I know one of my competitors out there is from Italy. So, I didn't mean to upset Ricardo. I love him, but I went to his home turf to sell a little.
All right, Ricardo, bring it on, baby. Anyway, so I'll just move on that one. So actually here, Linda chimes in and said, Kevin is all about culture and family. Coworkers are family. We pick each other up. So great segue. Maybe, talk about kind of, life balance in terms of, how you try and do it yourself and then what you try and preach to others. And do you practice what you preach?
Yeah. And I mean, anybody knows me, I have 4 kids and a beautiful wife. And I said my best sales job ever was convincing her to marry me. But when you mess with one Delane, you mess with all of us. But I do think that's a key part of, having a organization that does what we do. And that's when one of us is down, we pick them up. And, Randy, I told the story going back just pre-COVID. My 2 daughters are running the Chicago Marathon, one for fun, one was more competitive for a time. And at mile 24, a woman and her 3-year-old son decided to cross the street. 3-year-old stops in front of her. She flips and goes down, cuts her knee. The guy behind her comes over, picks her up, sees, and he says, "Are you going for a time?" She's like, "Yes, I'm trying to break 3:20. He goes, "Don't look at your knee. You're going to keep running." Grabbed her, started running with her, kept her going. And, she did break 3:20. But when she was done, she had to go get her knee because it was bleeding all down her leg, and that fixed up. So that's kind of my analogy of that's what we try to do. And,
there you go.
If someone's struggling as a rep, you go over and help them. And if someone's struggling as an SE, you do the same.
Awesome. Love it. And on the Fed side, you just hired Kevin Davis as a new leader, I think, last month. So assume the Fed is a growing part of your business as well?
Yeah, Fed is a growing part. Plus, the great thing about Kevin is I've been trying to find a great sales executive from Boston College, and that's where Kevin went to. So I think I really found one finally, Rand. And
wow. All right.
So he was a football player up there, great guy, but we're happy to have him. And, he was at Splunk and Databricks prior, so he has a great background for us.
Perfect. All right. I think you just became a advisory board member in the sales community based on that. So I guess chime in on Kevin's other comment before. I guess we have a full house and then some of Kevin's. So from Mike DeCheris, thanks, Mike. Mike says, I've never worked for a company with such the commitment to the channel. Katie's commitment to our channel has been nothing but amazing. Love his energy and leadership. I do want to know where his "Let's Go" chant originated from. And then I can go, let's see here. Then I can go back to chasing our deals for Q2.
So let's go, which I scream a lot. I know Brady says it all the time. I'm not sure. Like one time I was sitting there in a meeting and it was over and I didn't have a lot to say, Randy, and I couldn't go 3 words. So I said 2.5, let's go, and screamed it. And that's how it started.
Perfect. Yeah, it's easy. You can fit it anywhere. Everybody can remember it.
Yeah, I can sometimes spell it. It's good.
There you go. And then, speaking of which, look like you're jumping around on stage at a sales kickoff that you had recently.
Yeah, we had our first sales kickoff this past summer in August. It was the first time in person in 3 years. And that part was great. And I love sales kickoff. I love clubs. So really felt we did a good job and got the team fired up and ready to go.
Yeah. Matter of fact, you had your club trip down in Costa Rica back in the fall when I was down there with my brother-in-laws, right?
Yes. We caught a little rain.
Connecting, yeah. I think I was going to testimonial, I think, from you about my podcast with Carl, if I remember right.
Yes. And since Carl was influential and, paying for the club, it was easy to do. No, Carl's the best. He's a phenomenal leader. He's back in the grind right now, but he's the best.
Yeah, awesome. What about, speaking of which, maybe kind of as a CRO, your interaction with either Carl as a board member or other board members, kind of what's that engagement like?
Yeah, it's tight here, and in my past at Pure it was too, which is great. And I'll kind of take it from Pure to here. Like Pure was great because the original board at Pure, you had Mike Spicer, Mike Volpe, Frank Slootman, Anil Bursary, from Workday. Was phenomenal board. So those were pretty intense board meetings. I'd tell you here at Cohesity, we're very close to the board. The meetings are intense. The expectations are high. Generally having the go-to-market person be Carl. I generally get spend the most time with the go-to-market person. And but yeah, they're very involved with our overall business, which I think is great.
Awesome. And Dan Wormenhoven's on the board, right?
He just recently left the board. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. But and then what about in between board meetings? Because certainly, Carl and others have a huge Rolodex. Is there any kind of help there that you're able to get as well?
I was just going to say we use all of them in the sales process. And, I think it's the real smart reps that do that. And, when I see someone come in and start and they reach out and say, hey, I noticed this board member had a connection here, it's phenomenal. But all of them help us in the field. Oh,
awesome. I don't know if Gaurav, if he's still on the board, and Bill Coughlin. Yeah, so I'd met with those guys way back when Cohesity was tiny. I was doing some kind of advising consulting work. Yeah, but all great people for sure. Anyway, so now speaking of leadership, so now you've got Sanjay Poonen in as CEO coming over from VMware. How's that?
It's great. I mean, Sanjay has a massive amount of energy. His network is crazy. So if he looks, he claims he had broken LinkedIn with over 30,000 connections. And he will do anything from a customer point of view. So his customer focus has been great. And the last thing I'll add is that Sanjay, not only with that energy, customer focus, but he's very strategically focused in the market, which is good, because I think a lot of times when you're a growing company, you're just really focused on short-term objectives and not necessarily looking at everything that's going on out there in the market.
Gotcha. And Mohit, so how long did you have with Mohit? Was Mohit, and then how long has Sanjay been there?
Yeah, so I had 9 months with Mohit, and then Sanjay for the last 6. And yeah, and Mohit, I mean, it's the third type company, whether it's Google, then obviously Nutanix, and then here. So it's amazing. And, how bright he is, how he understands file systems and what goes on there. And from an engineering side, like his productivity and his kind of hands into the products are great. So I think right now it works, really well for us because Mohit is much more focused on the product and what we're doing there. And then Sanjay is more focused on, how we continue to grow the company and running the other parts of the overall company. So you take that combination, they call themselves the Splash Brothers, our version of the Splash Brothers. There's some that have called them Buzz and Woody. It depends.
Gotcha. And Mohit was pretty customer centric as well, right?
Yeah. And the Mohit would do if anything, within reason and law, anything you ask him to do for a customer, he'll go out and do at any time. And he will always, if I look at a couple of our biggest accounts, like he's engaged as much as the account manager is.
Oh, that's great. So was it tricky at all for you transitioning then Mohit to Sanjay?
So you always go through having two bosses instead of one, but it was pretty easy. And I think that it's hard when this is your baby to step back, and Mohit has done a good job of that. And I think that's hard. And then, Sanjay is, excuse me, much more kind of field focused in that. So I just naturally spend a lot of time with him.
That's great. How you're describing kind of that executive leadership culture reminds me of a kind of EMC in the early days where you had, engineering, obviously amazing with the product side of things, but kind of leveraging that into actually being customer facing and actually helping sales and sales calls, which a lot of tech companies these days you don't see.
Yeah. And I mean, the beginning with Dick Egan, nobody was focused more on the customers than he was. And he'd always remind you of that, which I thought was amazing. Right. And, I know there was a memo when somebody let a phone call go into voicemail that I'll never forget, because he came right out that said, hey, that could have been a customer. What the hell are you doing? And so I've kind of kept that with me through my career.
Awesome. Lots of great memories. That's we could do a whole day on that for sure. So let's talk about our title topic today is creating a top-notch go-to-market culture. And you break that into several attributes, including attitude, trust, accountability, and diversity. So maybe let's talk about attitude and what does that mean?
Yeah, from my side, obviously you can tell by my face, I smile all the time, but I think having a positive attitude, I mentioned before, bringing people up as opposed to bringing them down. And then also it's, you're focused during the day of getting things done and bringing solutions. And so, from my side, I believe that when people are fired up and focused, they'll achieve more. And that's what we try to drive throughout the organization.
Awesome. What about trust?
Trust is, that's what it's all based on. And if you can't look to your right and left and trust the people you're working with, then it's a bad company. And, I have a zero tolerance policy. We have that here. You cross the line, that's it. You only do it once. I don't, integrity is not a part-time thing. So for me, whether it's good or bad, I have to be able to get an answer, and I got to be able to, trust that is the right answer.
Yeah. And kind of not quite as rigid as integrity and kind of misleading, which is obviously pretty black and white, but kind of what about, I'll say, the trust concept around kind of, when a deal goes bad or it's going bad, kind of being able to, fess up and kind of tell the news sooner versus later. That's probably important as well.
Yeah, that transparency is huge, Randy. And, the end of the quarter, you're going through things now. There's a lot of deals and, I want to win them all. I understand we're not going to win them, but the sooner you uncover things and, and lay it out there, the better off we all are. And, that leads to kind of setting proper expectations because you're transparent with the data. And I think sometimes younger people in their career, or some people don't want to tell you the bad news, but, it's not helping if you hide it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get bad news sooner the better. And you never know, there might be ideas to turn it around. And a lot of that probably feeds into the next one around accountability.
Yeah, and whether things are good or bad, like ultimately I'm accountable for the number, and that's where it rests. And you need people to, they don't have to live in fear, but they have to feel that accountability through your organization and know we expect them to deliver. And if you set the clear expectations and clear priorities for them, like once it kind of flows down, they're accountable for driving that. And you see people make excuses for things, or this has happened. The reality is you either got to do the job and get to it, or not, right? And so, you need to drive that from your overall organization. And I think that's key to leadership and the managers that are out there too.
Awesome. Then a real important one, diversity. What are your thoughts there and best practices?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it comes from gender and race, and right, you're as a leader, right, you should be leading that from the front. But also from my side, it's you got to get people that think different. You got to get people that are different, come from different places, come from different backgrounds. And if you're hiring all people that are the same, you're not challenging your company. You're not challenging the status quo. So you always got to look to do that. And especially when you're filling out your team and organization. And, all of us sometimes have biases that may show up in your mind and that, but you got to bring in people who are different, think different, come from different places, and you'll be a better organization.
Absolutely. So talking about the title topic, creating top-notch go-to-market culture, we talked about attitude, trust, accountability, diversity. Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially now in the times like we're in and where we are. It's all about data, right? So you kind of have sales is a balance between, from my side, art and science. And so really you got to trust and drive data and use data in everything you do. So whether that's in metrics and KPIs to drive it, at the same time, there is some art to it. So you just can't manage by a spreadsheet. And, I think the art comes from what I'll call street smarts. And sometimes you got to go out, you got to be in the field to see what's going on with your own eyes, because you could change things that might not be the cookie cutter way to do it that get you better results. So that balance is something, boards love to talk about it, right? They want all the KPIs, all the metrics, which I agree with, but there is some art to what you do as you grow.
Yeah, well, Walter Brown used to call it the windshield time. Best thing for any manager or leader to do, right? You're driving around and then you're shooting the shit about everything, right?
100%. You could sit there. I talked about Italy before. You could take on a spreadsheet and you could see the metrics and say, all right, they're not doing a good job. But till you go out, see what they do for a week or two, you're really not going to understand it.
Absolutely. So give a plug here. So in my book, your go-to sales advisor, you have a submission on page 98, which is titled Always Lead with the New Product/Solution or Acquired New Technology SaaS/Solution. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, what I've learned and seen over time, and, we do it as leaders is, when you come up with a new product or a new part of the solution, everybody knows one part, the new thing's harder to sell. So generally you go out and sell it first, you'll make more money, right? And companies will spiff and do it. The second part is, the hardest thing is, when you are growing a company is to introduce the second platform or, kind of second area of doing business. But the faster you grow that part of it, right, the better off the company is. So if you just start, man, you should always lead with the new stuff because it's better for you and your pocket, but it's mostly it's best for the company.
Awesome. Perfect. And talking about spiffs, so the idea is compensation drives behavior, right?
It definitely does. Like I've learned that along the way, and we saw many different things. From EMC, learned a few things at Pure, and at one point in time when I saw someone have 39 net new logos, make 600,000, which was triple their OTE, but didn't make their quota, I thought we had the comp plan wrong.
There you go. And Tucker posted the link for my book, salescommunity.com/book. You can get a paper one or a ebook one. And I've got kind of 90 odd folks like Kevin that contributed. I've got some good tips and best practices and lots of other great content in there. So moving on here, what about advice for people breaking into tech sales?
Yeah, I think, bias of technology, right? And we're in a place, in a profession that I don't believe is going away, right? So technology is going to continue to grow. To me, when you start off your tech career and you start as an SDR or BDR, it is the hardest job you'll ever have. But if you could stick to the discipline, right, and hit the metrics and plans, the rest of your career will just take off from there. So, I've seen, young people come in. I've seen people say, I don't know if that person will make it. And when that person sticks to the plan and hits it, they come out great. And, I've seen numerous examples of that. So to me, it's buckle down, hit the discipline and the activity and the metrics every day, and you'll be fine.